Hello, everybody. I am Zenith will rule, the man with the plan, the person who used to do the Disney debate. And guess what? Now we are back with a brand new Disney debate. Same Disney style, same Disney debate, but it's new and improved. Here with me, as always, are two people who have seen the Disney debate go through many changes in its past lives. Say hello, Kat Macberrie.
Hey, babies, I'm back.
And she is back, and Y2 Staller.
Hello, everyone.
So the thing is, the Disney debate was something that was near and dear to our hearts, and unfortunately, due to many circumstances, including the closing of Blip, we didn't think that we were going to be bringing it back. However, now that things are finally stabilized on YouTube, it is finally time for us to delve back into the Disneys. We want to open that Disney vault, and we're gonna shove Eric inside. And
Wait, what?
He can't fit.
well,
He's too tall.
but there's time now.
I suppose if we fold him in like little tri-corners, that could work.
Thought we did that with Johnny Tremaine, but that's just me.
Yes. Our last official episode was on Johnny Tremaine, and the last 3 episodes with Eric are basically our new direction going forward in terms of editing. You may notice clips or references to the movie in question, because, you know, we like to use them as jokes to show you just how silly or how good the movie really is. And we're also going to showcase the video while we are talking, because we want you to see how the film looks. This is to really get a more Disney feel up in this business, if you will.
Yep, this is to make sure you feel the gut-wrenching pain we felt when... Oh, Yeller! You know.
Yeah, today we watched Old Yeller, and remind me, Eric, I believe we both saw this film in preparation for a Disney debate that we never recorded.
Yeah, we did. We did watch it a while back. We were going to do this as the next episode after Johnny Tremaine, but I mean, we watched it. We sat down. We talked about it, and we just never got around to recording it, and we just kind of just trailed off since then. So now that we're back, and I've been able to rewatch the movie a second time, which I was able to pick up on stuff that I didn't notice first time around, and we'll get to that. And so now we're here, and we're finally going to be talking about Old Yeller.
What better way to...
We are here.
Like, seriously, what better way to signify our return than to talk about one of the saddest Disney films in history?
This is one of the saddest and most well-known films in Disney history, and I think the big thing about it is that everybody knows it. Everybody has heard about the ending. Everyone knows kind of that it's a really big Disney classic. And going into it both times, I was just like, all right, well, I know what's going to happen. Film, I want you to wow me. And both times the film actually got me emotional, and I think a lot of it has to do with the lead up and pacing. Wouldn't you agree, Kat?
Yes, I actually do agree. Okay, first off, spoilers, the dog dies.
Oh no!
It's
oh,
not
no.
really a spoiler.
Still, you know how people are.
Snape killed Dumbledore.
It's one of those spoilers that are not really spoilers because they're so ingrained into pop culture. They just reveal it. It's like Luke, I am your father, or that Planet of the Apes was Earth the whole time. It's like one of those things where it's like, even if you've never seen it, you know what the lead up is.
You maniacs! You blew it up.
It's a sled. It's a sled from when he was a kid. There, it just saved 2 long boobless hours. Yeah, I know,
and
I
that's the
know.
thing with
Yeah, I know. What I meant was
that's
that, yes, I just wanted to clarify that, get that out of the way, since we're being pretty vague on that. But, yeah, I do agree with you said before, is that this movie, even though you do know the ending, and trust me, they hint at it heavily throughout the whole thing, it is still a pretty enjoyable journey and a very effective one at that.
to go off what you were saying about the foreshadowing, like they have literal Chekhov's guns in this film.
Mm-hmm. It's like,
Like
it's like,
they don't sugarcoat this.
he's like, I'm gonna put a bullet right between his eyes. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
He's like, that dog's gonna get himself shot. Ugh.
The film basically centers around a boy named Travis living back in the old west, and he lives his average life. His father goes away on a cattle drive and leaves him in charge.
His father's also Davy Crockett.
Yes, his father is Davy Crockett, and our headcanon, as it is now, is that Davy Crockett never ended. In universe, Davy Crockett, he did his thing. He survived the Alamo. He went west in Westward Ho. He went into this film for cattle drives, and then he lost his life on the Great Locomotive Chase. That's when he finally died.
That's our story, and we're sticking to it. Yeah, I gotta say though, Fess Parker's definitely wasted in this movie. Like, it's rather unfortunate. Like, honestly, any actor could have played his role, but you know, he was with Disney. Disney had to use him, so he did what he did, and he did a good job. It's just a shame that he couldn't do more.
It is very unfortunate because he was typecast, and this is one of the major reasons he left Disney. We have uncovered evidence that he left the Disney Corporation because they would not let him step outside of the Davy Crockett role in any single film he was in. He tried out for a part in, I believe it was Tonka, and it was going to be the same thing, and so he left Disney because of this. He was very upset because he's a very good actor, and he decided that he didn't want to be the squinty-eyed, grizzled person in every single film. I think that's a really big shame. What do you think of that, Eric?
It is a shame because I think what it was is that, and a little bit of it has to do with kind of like how Hollywood actors were set up back in that time, because like for the longest time, like Hollywood actors were kind of like they were like regular employees, like working like regular jobs, like especially with a lot of actors during like the 30s and 40s and even in the 50s, where they would be it would be that they would be assigned to work for that studio, and that's all. And they would be there, for whatever roles that come by. Like, oh, we need you for this, and we need you for this, and you're just there, like waiting for a role to show up. And I guess with Fess Parker, it was like, oh, hey Fess, we need you for this one thing for like Old Yeller, it's like all right, because he's contractually obligated with Disney, so that's probably why it was probably just a paycheck for him at that point. But it is kind of a shame because he does such a good job for like the 5-10 minutes he was in. He does a really good job. I mean, he comes in the beginning and it comes back in the end, but it's just like what Kat was saying, was that anybody could have done this, and it's a shame to have it completely wasted.
Yeah, I believe Kat was basically saying that, like, we have one of these, he does a very good job of the role, and we have one of these famous actors, and he could have had a larger role in the film. Unfortunately, the book really didn't call for it, and so I question why they had him in this film rather than some of the other films, that they had at the time, or upcoming films, or anything, because Correct me if I'm wrong, Kat, because you looked this up.
Yeah.
Wasn't he in other films after this?
Um, Unfortunately, no. I mean, I think there's like one or two, but for the most part, his movie career pretty much ended after his run with Disney. Because again, he was typecast so much, and you know, he they pretty much prevented him from being picked up during his prime. So I guess by that point, he either got sick of the business or people lost interest. So pretty much all he's done since then was like TV stuff, which wasn't that bad because he was in Daniel Boone for like 6 seasons. So it's not like he completely disappeared off the map. I guess he just didn't want to be involved with the whole movie business type thing.
And that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he does a good job as the father. Again, he shows up in the beginning. He says, "I have to go on a cattle drive, son. If you're a man of the house and you do everything right and do all your chores while I'm away, and I will get you a horse because Travis really wants a horse." And this is a big responsibility for a kid at the time because he has to do everything around the farm. It's just him and his mother right now on the farm, and so that actually does make sense. I like that's a deal they make. They strike it. He goes off, and then later in the film at the end he comes back and he has to comfort the child because his dog just died. And the way he deals with it is really, really well handled, especially since he didn't even know about Old Yeller to begin with.
It's funny when I rewatch the scene where he comes back and like his son is now burying a dead dog. Like I think back to the episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns like basically took over like the town and everyone wants him dead, and then Krusty comes back from vacation. He's like, "Hey everyone, I just spent 3 weeks in Tijuana. What'd I miss?" Like that just like I shouldn't laugh because it's really sad at that point, but it's like wow, he just walked into a shit show.
Yeah, and but he comes in. He's like, "What the hell is going on?" Because he's like, "Oh, Old Yeller died," and he looks at her. He's like, "Who's Old Yeller?"
Oh, Old Yeller, he is an awesome dog, I gotta say. He definitely a well-trained dog at that.
You do really have to admire the animal work in this film. Unfortunately, you can tell that there was animal harm done to at least a few of the animals.
Yeah.
Which, Kat brought up to me quite a few times. Then again, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what went on the set. But I do know that a lot of the stuff they show was in the book and did happen in the Old West, and they had to do stuff like that before, like, shooting deer, hogs tying a hog, and like trying to get it, like these things happened. But a dog fighting with a wolf is a little bit different. I'm not sure exactly how they got that scene to work.
Yeah, like I honestly like feel that they really had to kind of like put the dog in like a lot of danger because like he fights a bear, he fights a wolf, he goes against boars, what was it, he gets rocks thrown at him. It's like this dog goes through a lot.
Everyone gets rocks thrown at him. Yeah, and speaking of that, burr. There's a scene where Travis's little brother, because he's told that he's a good hunter because Old Yeller catches a fish and he presents it as his own catch. And so he gets it in his Alice gets it in his head that he is a good hunter. So he goes and finds a baby bear and tries to take it. And Kat and Eric and I all agree that Alice is an idiot and possibly the weakest link in the film. Wouldn't you agree, Eric?
He's kind of annoying. He's kind of in the way of a lot of stuff, and he kind of does stupid things. He gets into a fight with a bear cub, and the bear cub is all like howling, screaming, and like it's like and everyone's and the mother's like, leave the bear alone, and And Arliss is like, no, no, no. And of course, Mama Bear comes out. It's like, no shit. What do you think was going to happen?
And then there's another part of the film where he tries to go in, unlock the cage that Old Yeller is in, because he's rabid and he's ready to attack, and he's like growling and like pounding against like the cage, and Alice is almost about to like unlock everything. I'm like, okay, can you not see the shaking cage? Can you not hear the growling? Like, that's Zool in there. That is Zool.
Zool, motherfucker, Zool. Yeah, yeah, that kid.
It's like he's
that kid. Jesus Christ, that kid. Like, I get he's supposed to be a young kid. He, probably spent his entire life on the farm, doesn't really know the world or how things work and stuff, but even for a kid, he's really dumb and violent at that. Like, seriously, this kid, like, throws shit at everybody, and he does not discriminate. He'll, like, throw things at his brother, at strangers, at his mother. I'm like, holy shit, this kid's gonna like grow up to become a serial killer or something.
Yeah, the kid is pretty much the weakest link in the film, because he does have a certain amount of charm that you can kind of get past at some points, but like you said, he attacks pretty much everyone to try to get his way, and he's idiotic, he's selfish. And at the end of the film, he dresses up as an Indian. So.
And then was shot in a case of mistaken identity.
Disney. And he was later scalped.
We're kidding, of course. That's just wishful thinking on our part.
But I think, in my opinion, the strongest aspect of this film is that showing life on the farm. Because, Eric, you and we talked about a lot of live-action Disney films when we covered the 3 in our run of the Disney debate. Mm-hmm. And of those 3, only one was good, and it was a modern film. Compared to those, this is a really big breath of fresh air, not just because of the pacing, but because showing the life on the farm with an actual purpose behind each scene. It seems like it's leading up to something. There's a clear beginning and ending to the film. There's a clear arc for this character of Travis. And would you agree that this film really shows its strength in both showing the life on the farm but making it interesting?
Yeah, I think so, because it seems like with a lot of the early Disney films, like I remember when we were watching Westward Ho! The Wagons, like it showed like, I guess, life on like the Oregon Trail and stuff, but the pacing of it was kind of weird because like it felt more like going from one set piece to another set piece to another set piece without without any really linking, without any flow going in from one to the next. With Old Yeller, and I think it helped because there was a much more clearer narrative. That with that it does have like it does break itself up into chapters, but there is a sense of flow going from one chapter to the other without oh, here's this, we're gonna focus on this, and then we're just gonna jump to this. It just kind of just flowed naturally, and a lot of it I think does have to do with the pacing of the film. Not saying the pacing wasn't an issue in Westward Ho, but I think with Westward Ho, because of there was a lot of action and then there was like stillness and then a lot of action. Here, like there is action in it, but it's not like but it's not like crazy action. Like he's not battling like a Native American tribe like in Westward Ho. He's battling against animals like grizzly bears and stuff. And there's even moments in the film where we get shots of different animals, like especially in the one scene early on where he's hunting a deer, and then he stops for a second to, I guess, enjoy nature, where we see the squirrels running around and we see the little birds in the trees and all the other stuff and all the other critters running around. And that kind of helps with the pacing. It allows us, I guess, to breathe, allows us to take in a little bit more.
There's a big sense in the film of flow in terms of one action scene to the next, because it presents these problems as natural things that would happen on a farm. There's one scene in the film where one of the cows gets out, and they have to bring it back, and Old Yeller is there to help and like knocks down this cow. And then later on, when they go to milk the cow, the cow's just like, okay, Old Yeller's here. I gotta stop what I'm doing.
I love that the dog just looks at the cow and it just like freezes and stops what it's doing. It's like Old Yeller, the cow whisperer.
I'm a dog and I talk to cows and I beat up things. Like Old Yeller is probably the strongest dog I've ever seen, because he fights off everything. Like they say he's like the strongest like hog hunting dog that they've seen, and he takes on a pack of hogs just to save Travis when he tries to do something a little bit reckless. And he gets patched up and he heals pretty quickly, I would think. Judging by the pace of the film, it's hard to really tell how long it goes by. But he fights off a wolf, he fights off the cow, he fights off... Like, this dog got some backbone. Like, he's not just Yeller, he's fighter. He's warrior.
Well, they do...
Ultimate warrior.
Well, they do mention that he was a cattle dog, so, you know, he's used to herding cattle. So you gotta be sort of tough in order to do that. I think it's also the fact that Old Yeller is a mixed breed of, I believe it's Golden Retriever and a Mastiff, which are both pretty big dogs and pretty strong dogs at that. So, but no, Old Yeller's actually pretty smart too. I love the fact that he's like a thief on top of the fact that he can apparently fight animals. It's like
Yes.
Like you would think that, you know, being all strong, he'd like sort of, you know, try to outbrute whatever food source he came across, like force his way into it. But no, he kind of like cleverly slinks around everything and steals whatever suits his fancy. And he's also smart enough to know when not to steal.
Yeah, there's a point in the movie where in the beginning, he steals one of the pieces of meat that's hanging out to be cured. And Travis, at this point, he doesn't want him around because he knocked down the fence, like he just caused a lot of trouble. So he doesn't want this dog at all. So he hangs a piece of meat a little bit lower to basically give himself a reason to shoot the dog if he ever gets into the larder. And he comes up in the morning, and the dog's just looking at him like, I did nothing. Nothing happened. And the meat's still there.
He's like, I know your game, boy. You ain't gonna fool me.
And this trait was actually passed off to his puppy as well, which I thought was funny because the puppy immediately starts stealing meat. And we're going to see the puppy in the future, although not the same puppy, because there was a sequel to Old Yeller. Despite Yeller dying at the end of the film, there is a sequel called Savage Sam. It's not the same exact dog, but there is a sequel, and we will talk about that next time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they won't explain how the dog became a completely different breed and temperament.
And got a different name, because at the end they call him Young Yeller.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain they're gonna not explain any of that, and I mean, from what I've seen, they do indeed have some of the same cast, like at least the sons are back, but the dog's completely different. So I guess either Young Yeller died tragically in a in a tractor accident or something, or I don't know, maybe it's one of those things where he hits puberty and then he changes color. At least that's what my dad always told me.
They specifically set up the puppy because they explained that he had puppies and they only showed one, and they gave it to Travis, and Travis gave it to Alice because he didn't want it because he's a jerk.
To be fair, he already had a dog.
He did already have a dog at the time. So they do set it up. I'm curious how they go about it. Another thing we should definitely talk about, because we've basically covered the main portion of the film, where a lot of it is interesting things that happen on a farm that make us like Old Yeller and us really sad when he's killed. But one of the minor things in the film is a character played by Mike Fink. He is a person who's left behind, not on the cattle drive, for a very good reason, because he's completely useless.
He's completely useless now.
Eric, would you like to talk about this man and his role in the film?
Basically, the whole purpose of him is to come in, saying, "Oh, I'm here to help you out. To help out the old woman and his and her children, because the man is gone. So I'd have to take care of him and protect him and blah blah blah. So I'm gonna send my daughter out to do everything that I'm supposed to do." That's pretty much it.
There's a clip that we will show right after this. That is basically him. He says, "If you need anything, please call," right after pawning his daughter to do what he was supposed to do in the first place, after being specifically told what he should be doing on the farm. Let me show you that clip now.
Now, Miss Coates, I was just trying to give a word of warning. Reckon if I can't be of no more help around here, I'll be making tracks for home.
Help? There are plenty of ways a man could help around here.
Huh? By doing what, Miss Coates?
Like hitching up the mule and gathering in the corn crop before the deer eat it up or the blowing rain rotted in the field.
Now, don't you fret yourself at all about that corn crop, Miss Coates. I'll be glad to take care of that. Lisbeth?
Yes, Papa?
Lisbeth, honey, Miss Coates says she's in kind of a bind, ain't got her corn in the crib yet. Figured I'd leave you behind to help her with the job.
Mr. Sissy, Lisbeth's nothing but a little girl.
Yeah, well, she ain't much for size. But she's just like her old pappy, stout and willing. Now, don't you forget, Miss Coates. If there's any other little thing I can do for you, don't you be bashful about telling me. I'm on call day or night. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, and then all he does is just sit around and just eat and take advantage of the poor woman's home cooking.
Actually, everyone takes advantage of her cooking in that movie.
Yeah, but he takes advantage of it the most, because he doesn't really contribute anything. I mean, the other guy who comes in later, who happens to be Old Yeller's real owner, at least with him he kind of like gives advice. He kind of like gives advice and he actually like does stuff with them. I forgot what else they did, but at least he's a much more useful character, because he's the one that warns him about the rabies that's been going on around, that's been spreading. So at least there's a point to his character. The other one is just, well, he's just a fat old frontiersman speaking classic frontier gibberish. So
I do wonder if he is like Mark Fink as well, Mike Fink from Davy Crockett as well. I mean, it'd be a little harder to fit the headcanon, but I like to think of it as such. He gave up being a sea captain and then decided to become a farmer and become lazy.
I mean, he didn't really do a good job being a river pirate, so that would make sense. He was kind of a bumbling buffoon there, and now he's even more of a bumbling buffoon. And here he gives Travis all these ideas, like he's telling him about how he roped the hog. He's the reason that Old Yeller was attacked, because he got it in Travis's head that, oh yeah, it's pretty easy to rope in a hog, and he gives all these horrible stories and ideas to Travis. And the only person to really do good in Travis's life as a father figure was the original owner of Old Yeller, who tells him about the hydrophobia, which is basically rabies. And so that person actually does something useful. This guy actively sabotages everything. I think he's a funny character, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know how much he contributes to the film.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he brings about young Yeller, I guess, and the love interest. I guess he's a means.
The quote unquote love interest.
Yeah, she's just sort of there. And then she makes this weird face when he doesn't return her affection.
She does have kind of an odd facial structure about her, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really not. But like she makes the weirdest faces when she's supposed to be like upset. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, all of these characters pale in comparison to the acting of Tommy Kirk, who plays Travis. Like, he's clearly the best actor in the film, aside from Fess Parker.
And they, in a film where you really have to adapt a book and have a main character that does all this stuff, they really make Travis enjoyable to watch. You really understand his love for Old Yeller, and you really understand why in the beginning he doesn't like this dog at all, because he almost ruins his chances at getting a horse. And at the end of the film, I mean, me and Kat were talking about it, and I believe Eric felt this as well, when he was emoting at the end, like, and he had to shoot the dog, like, he was near tears. And I was actually starting to cry as well, because he was so well acted. He was so well versed in his character.
Yeah.
I haven't seen something like this in a child actor thus far.
Yeah, I was sort of in tears too the first time watching this. Just to clarify, I had not seen Old Yeller before we watched it. So, like, I knew, of course, the ending, but I never had a reason to watch it till now. And then I saw it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is one of the saddest deaths in Disney history. Like, I'm like, that poor kid, that poor dog. I want to give this whole movie a hug.
What are your thoughts, Eric?
Well, I mean, it does have a pretty emotional payoff, but the one thing that I've noticed, and I noticed this the second time around watching it, was every time Travis shot something, like whether it was the cow getting hydrophobia or or Old Yeller or anything like that, if when it's an emotional death, they always cut away from him as soon as the shot goes off. And I think because of that quick cut also helps with that emotional grab. Just it cements it even further. And I think that's why it works so well, is not just because of how well acted it is, but also how well edited it was in terms of how they were able, in terms of just that quick cutaway, and you feel the emotion of that shot, not being able to see it and just hear it. Your mind plays with that, and it just sits there for a while, and it grabs you, and that's why it's so powerful.
Going on what you were saying, the editing in this film is really well done, and having seen some of the other films, that there's a lot of fluff that could have been taken out. This film was, for the time, superbly edited. In terms of emotional importance, in terms of what to keep in and what points to cut. I mean, for its time period, this is a very well-made film. And, I mean, they didn't have to have a lot of scenes that required special effects. What they did do was they had a lot of animal work, and they had a lot of acting work. And they used a lot of sets that were not like prop sets, but were actual like outdoor environments. And I think that really went to the benefit of the film.
I just want to bring up real quick, there was one editing point that I kind of questioned, and it kind of made the scene more funny than it should have been. It was the scene where after Arliss throws rocks at Old Yeller's original owner, and the owner seems to take it in good stride, and as the mother's like scolding the boy, he's like, "Hey miss, send him on over to me." And then the camera sort of pans to him and there's this dramatic horn, and then you see the boy and he looks frightened, and then he walks up to the guy, and then the camera pans upward and it's the dramatic horn again. I'm like, is this guy gonna whoop the kid's ass? Why are they shooting it like this?
Is that what I look like to you people sometimes?
Yes.
Being how tall that I am?
Yes. All the time.
Yes.
And I hear the dramatic horn too.
They were clearly doing the Old West thing. I think they wanted to establish the cliche or something. But yeah, you're right. That was kind of a very silly cut. Okay, so we have covered the actors. We have covered the story. We've covered a lot of the emotion. We've covered a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff. In terms of music, there is only one song in the film, but it is a memorable song. It is used for the opening and the ending. It's the Old Yeller theme, and it's kind of like Davy Crockett in a way. It's like, Old Yeller is the best doggone dog in the West, and they really hammer it home, and I think it's actually quite catchy. I like it.
Yeah, it reminds me of sort of like a little toy jingle, which I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to market, as distasteful as it is. It's like
I only know this song because of the Disney sing-along tapes
Yes.
that I had back in the day, and this was one of them. I mean, that and Davy Crockett. That's how I know both of those songs, is because of the Disney sing-along stuff. So that's how I knew the song, and I still know the lyrics because you sing along with the lyrics, and so I knew. So I'm just like singing it in my head when they show the opening credits. I'm like, yep.
it takes me back to childhood. Except I wasn't a fan.
This film really isn't a musical in any case, but they did a good job of utilizing their one song for the film. So I got to give them props. But I wanna see, what are your final thoughts of this film? Because we've talked a lot about the good points, and we acknowledge the bad. Like Alice is a little bit annoying and does some stupid stuff. I think most of the film is actually held up really well in terms of the time period this was made. What are your final thoughts, Kat?
I definitely see why this is a Disney classic. Like, aside from the infamous ending, it is a very well-made movie. It's, for the most part, very well acted. It's like a little time capsule, but at the same time, it is kind of timeless. And it's pretty much the pinnacle of the, a boy and his dog genre-type movie. And like, you feel the emotion, you feel the connection, you love the dog and the kid, and it gives you a nice warm fuzzy feeling up until the ending, in which case it rips your soul in two. But for the most part, I do like this movie, and I do highly recommend it for Disney buffs and pretty much anyone who really likes films and movies about farm life and just growing up and coming of age. So I definitely would recommend it.
And what do you think, Eric?
It's the very classic boy and his dog, and they get along, and they have fun together. They go on adventures, and they're there for one another. And this is basically, and every other movie since then has been trying to copy this formula, the Old Yeller formula. And this is where it all started, and I can see why, over the years, with kids' films, like, it's always like a boy and his dog, or a boy and his whale, or a boy and his goat, or, well, maybe not goat, but...
No,
hey,
never a boy and his goat.
If a dog and a dolphin can get along, why not a boy and his goat?
Oh, God.
I will say this, though. This is definitely not recommended for kids. I would wait till, they're older. Because, honestly, had I seen this when I was little, it probably would have messed me up. Just because, I hate the idea of animal deaths, even if, it was necessary in that film. So, because I mean, Bambi's death is traumatic enough, and Mufasa's death even more so. So, I think this would be tipping the scale a little too much. My,
I would say more like PG, like for somebody like maybe 11 or 12.
yeah, that's a bit more desirable, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
This film to me is something of an oddity of the time. In a period where Disney was making very good animated films, but very few good live-action films, this emerged as a gem. And I don't know if it's because it was made from a very, very good book. I don't know if it's because of several different factors coming together at the right time, if it's because of the actors, if it's because of the filmmakers. I don't know what it is, but something just clicked. And it stands the test of time because of how well the source material was and how well it was adapted. It is very clearly a film that is meant to be seen by anyone who is a Disney fan. Like this, if you see one live action film, this should be it. Or it should be at least one of the major films in your library if you're a Disney collector, because there is a reason we remember it, even more so than a lot of the older, crazier films in the Disney canon. Like, forget So Dear to My Heart, please.
Please.
Forget Song of the South. This is one of the major moments in Disney history, and it should be remembered. It deserves to be remembered.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
I give it my firm stamp of recommended. Again, with the caveat that, like, stuff happens. There is a little bit of animal cruelty because of the time period and because of the period in which this movie was made. And they do, the dog does die at the end. So kids should not watch it if they're younger than, I would say 12 would be good age to watch it, especially because that's around Travis's age. But yes, this definitely gets a stamp of highly recommended. One of the better films that we've seen for this. And now we begin the process of searching for Savage Sam, which I had not heard of until Kat brought it up to me.
You're welcome.
And I said, dear God, there's a sequel to Old Yeller. We can't escape the Disney sequels. So that's what we're going to be talking about next. Here's what's going to happen in the podcast format, though. Next time, all three of us will return, since all three of us talked about Old Yeller. But afterwards, we're going to do a little bit of splitting up, since we're not talking about as many major Disney films. So some films we're going to do just me and Eric. Some films we're going to do me and Kat. We're going to alternate a little bit, and, we're going to all come back for the major Disney films that we know are considered classics, or that we all really want to talk about. So, with that being said, is there anything else you guys would like to bring up about Old Yeller before I sign us off?
Yeah. Old Yeller, he's...
Fade out already. We get the joke.
With that being said, thank you guys for watching. The Disney debate has come back, and it's back in action like the Looney Tunes, and we're just happy to have you guys on board again. Thank you all so much for watching. If you would like to check out our stuff, you could check out the Disney debate on this channel, youtube.com/Zenith will review. But if you are watching elsewhere, I don't know how you're doing it. But you can also check out our other handles. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Zenith will rule. Kat is at I believe it's Ephraim T. Rabbit.
Yes.
And Eric, do you have a Twitter?
I
Yes,
still
you
do. It's at Y2Staller.
Yes, that's right. I couldn't remember if you still had Twitter or not. So you could follow us on Twitter. We like to interact with you guys. Or if you would like to go to the official Disney Debate Facebook page, you can do so. It is facebook.com/Disney Debate. And we are always willing to talk about Disney stuff. Not just old, but new, improved, just anything Disney. With that being said, I am Zenith Rule.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
I'm Eric Staller.
And we are going to see you next time
T-
on the Disney Debate.
TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
And watch out for snakes.
Snakes.
Thank you for watching the Media Meltdown. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. And if you like what you see, show your support on the Patreon page at patreon.com/Media Meltdown. See you all next time on the Media Meltdown.